Okay, welcome back. Um, we're going to go over problem formulation, conceptualization, and operationalization. These are in your books found in chapters 6 and 7. We have talked a lot about finding a topic that you can narrow down to study for dissertation. This is all about seeing something interesting, a relationship between things, trying to determine if there even is a relationship, whether or not the presence of one thing will predict the presence of another, whether or not one thing causes another. We can see that things seem to run together, and that seems to be proof of a relationship. And we can determine causality too in the process of research, or fail to find causality. It all depends upon how we design a study, how we formulate a research question, and how we systematically set up the procedures of the study. The systematic procedure part is called research methodology. But the first step of research process is not the systematic procedure, not the methodology. It is not how we do the research. It is how we conceptualize a problem. What are we trying to prove? Why should anyone care? What is the problem? What is your thinking about the reasons, the variables that impact that problem? How do you see the theory about those reasons in ways that you can measure the probability that they really do matter? When we talk about statistics in research, all we're really doing is saying that there is a probability that our hypothesis is true. There is a mathematical risk that something will happen, that having one variable, or perhaps having two of them, a third is likely to happen. We're narrowing down, zeroing in on a gamble. Does toilet training a child before the age of 2 make for an obsessive-compulsive adult? What would you say the hypothesis there would be? What would be your theory? Be prepared for your final to have an answer to that kind of question. I'll present the scenario myself, most likely. Maybe not. Let's do one right now. I've noticed in my practice that I have a certain kind of patient. Generally, she's from an addicted family that lives in another country or a territory of the United States, like perhaps Puerto Rico. She sends money home to her mother to help pay for food and mortgage for her siblings and nieces and nephews. My patient tends to be a very angry person who has difficulty controlling her rage. When I take history, I find that people like her have fathers who beat them for not controlling their siblings very well, for not fulfilling their parental child well enough. What do you guess I would present as the problem I'm investigating in this study? What would be hypotheses for the study? What are the variables I'm looking at? Which ones are independent? Which ones are dependent? How would I operationalize them? How could we measure them? Would it be possible for direct observation? The answer to that is no. It's not what we're after here. We're interested in finding a group of women who send money to their families, and we want to measure something about these women that will predict something else. Between you and me, that is a great study. I might actually be doing it myself. But the purpose of that kind of study is to predict relationships between 2 or 3 variables and to see if there's any chance we can even explain relationships. Our studies only intend to describe phenomena, to explore what's not been adequately described in the literature. Science, again, is open to inquiry. We need more systematic inquiry, less armchair psychologizing. So a well-conceptualized, well-designed, exploratory study that describes a problem, especially if it describes a wide range of ways that people tackle that problem, is a huge contribution to the literature. Lastly, the purpose of some studies is to evaluate policies, procedures, and effectiveness. Most agencies have utilization review of some sort. One of the things you should learn in your tenure as a PhD student is how to set up a study that internally checks the utility, the usefulness of a system. Okay, we're going to continue in just a minute. We'll stop here. You can talk a little bit.